Oh, hello. Welcome to the Burt Locker. This is the first video I've done in about a week or so. Long story short, what happened was I was trying to... I've upgraded the device that I record on. I bought another phone that has better recording capabilities, but the microphone that I use plugs into the headphone jack, and obviously new phones, you ain't getting a headphone jack. No, because we're too clever for that now. We're too clever for that kind of crap. So then I bought an adapter for to give it a headphone jack. No problem. Mic still doesn't work with it. So the video that I recorded last week, the picture looked fantastic. The sound left something to be desired, and the sound is for me the most important thing. Let me know in the comments, is the sound the most important thing on a video? If not, maybe I'll just use the device's sound, which I think sounds janky. I don't really like it. So, but then I ordered myself a wireless mic, wireless lapel mic. I prefer the lapel mics. I'm very aware you can get other microphones are available. All right, and I know that, so don't even, because you might be able to tell by the sound of my voice, I'm pretty irritated right now. So I bought myself a new microphone, and that's why I didn't do an event show last week, because I was waiting for that to be delivered. It's now been delivered. Follow the instructions perfectly. You turn on the microphone, hold the button for 3 seconds. Then you turn on the transmitter, hold it for 3 seconds, and then the flashing red and green light will go solid on both parts. They're connected. What happens if the transmitter just doesn't? What then? Oh, is there a troubleshooting section in the instructions? No, obviously not. I haven't. I've got a whole video to do and edit, so I'm not going to spend the next 2 hours troubleshooting that online, which is what I'm going to have to do. By the way, I'm going to have to go online to find out why this thing, because it only shows you instructions for the perfect world, for the perfect scenario where everything works first time, which it doesn't. So anyway, that's why there wasn't a video last week. I realise I've gone off on a real tangent. I'm going to have a quick recap of Volkanovski versus Topuria, UFC Fight Night Mexico, or whatever they wanted to call it. And also why UFC 300 is not going to be the biggest fight card of 2024. So all that and more coming up on the Burt Locker. Right, we're going to start off Volkanovski versus Topuria. Obviously, that happened well over a week ago now, so this is late to the party. I thought that Volkanovski was looking like vintage Volkanovski. He was looking absolutely fine. But look, Topuria has that kind of power that can just put people to sleep. And that's what he did. He caught him with a good one. The whole game plan for Volkanovski was to not get caught with that. And he did. Like, I don't really think... because to say, oh, Volkanovski, he's now hit 35 and he's no longer a good enough fighter to beat these kind of guys is kind of disrespectful to Topuria, no? It is a little bit. Topuria just got him. He got him with a good one. And I want them to do the rematch. Maybe Volkanovski should take a little bit of time off. Who knows? I'm not him. I don't know what's going on in that noodle of his. But not for nothing. I was gutted because I wanted Volkanovski to win, just because, not because I'm not a fan of Topuria, you understand? I am a big fan of Topuria. I like his fight style. He's very, very good. I know he's Spanish or German, but he is Georgian. And these Georgian guys coming up are all killers. Murad Dvalishvili, for instance, who had a great outing against Henry Cejudo. Got Roman Dolidze as well. There's the other one, Giga Chikadze, I believe is Georgian. All these guys coming over from Georgia, man. They're the new... They're to striking what Khabib was to wrestling. That makes sense. Like, all these guys, they're coming over with some vicious kickboxing and really good power and great hands as well. So, yeah. I would like to see Volkanovski get his rematch. He deserves it because, look, if you've defended the title as many times as he has, you deserve the rematch. Do I think he should take it straight away? I'm undecided on that. I mean, Max Holloway took the immediate rematch and it didn't work out great for him, because once you lose that immediate rematch, that's it. It's a very difficult road back to the title at that point. Speaking of Max Holloway, he must be blessed, as it were, that there's now a new champion, because you could sell a first fight between Max Holloway and Topuria far easier than you can sell a fourth fight between Max and Volkanovski. So he must be a pretty happy man right now. And not for nothing, that's a fight I would like to see. But the rematch, it could very well take place in Madrid, as has been alluded to. I hope it does, because if they're going to do that, I might take a road trip. Because from the UK here, like, Madrid is, you could fly, sure, but I feel like actually, you know, doing a road trip in the Fiesta ST, just having some fun. I feel like that would be a fun road trip. You know, have a good road trip. A couple of the guys just go and watch the UFC, hop back. It's about a 40-hour round trip total driving. So I think you'd need to take about 5-6 days to do it. Just break up the driving a little bit. But I think that could be real fun. And I hope that they do it. The other things that jumped out at me for like UFC 298 was that Paulo Costa looked better than I expected him to look, honestly. I didn't expect him to beat Robert Whittaker, and he didn't. So that prediction was spot on, because I just thought that Whittaker's just too well rounded. And you know what? That spinning heel kick or whatever it was, like he was unlucky not to finish the fight with that. I hope we see more of Paulo Costa sooner rather than later, because I just don't... I feel like he looked a lot better than I gave him credit for, honestly. So, what else? Okay, yeah, I mentioned earlier, Murad Valishvili absolutely dog-walked Henry Cejudo. So those are the biggest takeaways of that one. Then last night, we had the UFC Mexico. No, not last night, night before. Either way, I watched it on a Sunday morning. So to me, it was yesterday. I know it's happened to Saturday night, but I digress. Yeah, it was a good card. I thought that Brian Ortega was very impressive. I had him by submission as well. So I got like 4-1 on that, which isn't bad. That was the only thing I really bet on. It was the only fight that I was really super concerned about. The main event, Marino versus Royval 2. I don't know, or Royval, I don't know. He's American, so it's probably Royval rather than Royval. I wasn't that fussed about it going in. I wasn't that fussed about it going out, honestly. But yeah, there were some good fights on the card. There was one in particular that I really enjoyed, which was where is it? Quinones versus Barcelos, which is the bantamweight prelim headliner. That was a really good one. Well worth going back to catch that one. But so. Brian Ortega, incidentally, because this ties in to the Volkanovski thing, has said that he wouldn't mind if Volkanovski didn't want to fight again this year. He would happily take his place and fight Ilia Topuria in Madrid. Yeah, I bet you would, mate. I bet you would. I'm sure he didn't mean it in a kind of disrespectful way. He actually did it in the most respectful way possible. Brian Ortega he seems to have found God or something, because he was very God-bothery in the post-fight interview, which he hasn't been before. And he was just being super respectful. It was quite funny at the end of the fight, because obviously, look, you've got to hold that submission on to make sure they go out. But Ortega didn't notice tapping, and he didn't notice the referee saying, "Yep, he's done." And Goddard, there was just look, people are making more of it than it is. If you I'll show up the picture now. People are taking this freeze frame effectively and making it look like Goddard's about to smash Ortega. No, there was just a bit of urgency there. It was just, I told you to release the hold, and that was it. It was just Ortega wasn't doing it to be a dick. It wasn't Husamir Palhares type thing. That reference there, if you're not like an MMA nerd like myself, go back and look up Husamir Palhares. He's one of the only guys to be kicked out of the UFC for winning. But basically, he just kept on holding submissions on way too long because he was a nutter. He was a nutcase. Take a look at him. Total roid rage. He used to yank people's legs. I think it was a choke he held on as well. It might have been against Babalu Sabral, if I remember rightly. I might have misremembered that. Let me know in the comments if I've misremembered it. Like and subscribe and all that. Anyway, yeah, you know what? I'd watch Ortega against Topuria as well. I wouldn't mind just seeing a big event in Madrid, because it could be like a cheeky little sunshine holiday for me as a Brit as well. And I'm sure many UK fans would agree that a Madrid event would be pretty nice, because it's a relatively easy flight or you know, you can get your car on the train, drive from France, and do it as a nice road trip. So yeah, so I will move on from that at this point. UFC 300. You're seeing a lot of discussion. Jamal Hill, bring him up here. He's been talking about how the fans are spoilt, that you know, because they're all moaning about the UFC main event. Let me clarify this just somewhat. We're not disappointed with the main event. It's just, it's not the mind-blowing main event. Like Dana White said, you're not going to believe the main event that we've got lined up for UFC 300. It's going to blow all of your minds. Having the former champion at light heavyweight, defend his belt against the new champion after he had not lost it, that's not mind-blowing. I expected that fight to happen. In fact, I believe it was supposed to happen at UFC 301. You've just brought it forward one event. That's all that's happened there. Outside of that, on the card, you've got what? You've got Weili versus Yan. Yeah, it's okay. It's a pretty good card. It's a pretty strong card overall. But it's not like a UFC 300 card. I mean, I say it's UFC 300, but for me, UFC 300 is not going to be the biggest UFC event of 2024. That's a fact, right? Because I've already seen some of the things that they're lining up for UFC 306. Now, UFC 306 is the Mexican Independence Day card, and it's going to be the very first card that they're going to do at the new Las Vegas Sphere. That's where they're holding all these concerts and things. I think U2 did a concert there. I've seen some of Google some clips of the Sphere. It's going to be, it looks unbelievable. And a UFC event in there is going to be off the scale. Nate Diaz has already expressed interest in fighting at UFC 306. Could you imagine how irked Michael Chandler will be if he's waited out for 2.5 years and then Diaz says, look, I'm down to do UFC like 306 in the Sphere. And McGregor's like, you know what? I wouldn't mind being on the first ever event at the Sphere. And I've always meant to do the trilogy with Diaz. Sign me up. Done. That's the kind of spectacle you could get Conor McGregor back involved for. Nate Diaz has already expressed interest. Is that impossible? I don't think that's impossible. I just don't think it is. Is it a dick move to Michael Chandler? Yeah, you betcha. But I'm sure he'd get paid off. I'm sure he'd be compensated. But could you imagine the magnitude of that event? I can imagine it, already imagining it, already thinking about it, already thinking about going, already thinking about buying my ticket. Already thinking about getting myself over there because I was itching to get over to Vegas because I went to UFC 200. But honestly, UFC 300 is not the event that UFC 200 was, and it isn't, right? Before you start, all right, some people that they said, well, you know, UFC, like the UFC 200 main event was Tate versus Nunes. Incorrect. The original main event was Jones versus Cormier 2. That's what was advertised. Now, let's be fair here, yeah, that the main event didn't end up happening, but you still had Nunes versus Tate, you still had Brock versus Mark Hunt, you still have Velasquez versus Travis Brown, you still had Diego Sanchez versus Joe Lozon, you still had Johnny Hendricks. Did Johnny Hendricks fight Kelvin Gastelum? I think he did. I think he might have done. Like, this is all off the top of my head. I haven't even, I should have really prepared this properly. Who else? Edgar fought Aldo, for God's sake. Anderson Silva for Daniel Cormier. The whole event was star-studded, right? The main event falls out of UFC 300. The main event is going to be Zhang Weili versus Yan. I don't think that's... I don't think there's any part of the UFC 300 card that is better, which leads me to believe that the UFC 306 card is going to be insane. Insane. John Jones will be fit. Just saying. Look, all these people are going to be back by that point. It's going to be the summer. People are going to love it. UFC 306. Mexican Independence Day. That's going to be the biggest UFC event of 2024. Yeah, I think that's about all I've got for it. What's going on this weekend? This weekend, to be fair, there is a fight that I'm actually relatively excited about, and because it's the it's the big boys, or should I say, more specifically, the Biggie boy, Jairzinho Rozenstruik is fighting Gaziev. Now, Gaziev's a bit of a monster. He's that monster out of Bahrain, and Rozenstruik, he's just one of the heaviest hitting kickboxers out there. Petrino versus Tyson Pedro is the co-main event. That's a sick fight. Like Vitor Petrino, he's this like light heavyweight kind of kickboxer, savage out of Brazil. He's a nightmare. Tyson Pedro, who's come back and looked an absolute monster. Muhammad Makayev's on that card as well. Holy shit, Eric Anders against Pickett. That's a huge... Umar Nurmagomedov's on that card. This is a really good card. I'm already excited to get breaking this down. That's going to be the Casuals Guide this week. I forgot to look at Troll of the Week, but there was one that I did save. So I'm going to do a bonus video this week, because I do have a bone to pick with a food supplement company, just because it annoyed me. It's going to be a Huel rant. It's going to be I'll say short. It's going to be 5 minutes or less. But I'll try and find a Troll of the Week for that. And then I'll be doing my Casuals guides. And either one, look, I'm busy. You know, I'll try and get as much out as I possibly can. Maybe I'll try and get the microphone working like sometime this week. Who knows? And then you'll get a lovely picture. But far better. But this picture isn't terrible. It's not offensive. To be fair, maybe I need the lower resolution. I don't think I need high definition on this mug. But that being said, on that terrible disappointment, like, subscribe, click the bell notification so that you can see when I actually... Usually, I'll go try and get back to more of a routine. But hit the bell notification, and whenever I drop content, you'll at least know about it. And until next time, keep all those odds long and those bets terrible.